The email arrived at 6:47 a.m., its subject line a small cruelty in the pale blue light of Elena Vasquez's phone screen. Dear applicant, thank you for your interest in Hartwell Industries. After careful consideration, we regret to inform you that your application for the position of administrative assistant has not been selected to move forward. She didn't read the rest. She'd memorized these rejections by now. The polite language, the hollow gratitude, the door closing with corporate softness. This was the 14th one in 3 months. Elena set the phone face down on the kitchen counter and looked at her daughter, Maya, who sat at their small table eating cereal with the careful concentration of a 6-year-old trying not to spill milk. The apartment was cold. The radiator had been temperamental all week, and Elena had been rationing the space heater between Maya's bedroom and the kitchen. Mama, can I wear my purple coat today? The zipper's broken, baby. You have to wear the blue one. But the blue one isn't warm enough. Elena closed her eyes. The blue coat was a hand-me-down, thin as paper, meant for California autumns rather than East Coast winters. She'd been saving for a new one, but saving required money left over, and lately there was nothing left over. I'll layer you up, Elena said, forcing brightness into her voice. 2 sweaters underneath. You'll be toasty. Maya nodded, trusting completely, and Elena felt that trust like a weight on her chest. 30 blocks north, in a corner office that overlooked the frost-covered city, Daniel Hartwell stood at his window and watched the sunrise paint the buildings gold and rose. He was 53 years old, worth more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes, and he could not remember the last time he'd felt warm. His assistant had left his schedule on the desk. Meetings from 7 until 7, dinner with investors, a charity gala he'd agreed to months ago and now dreaded. Daniel pressed his palm against the cold glass. Below, the city was waking. Delivery trucks, early commuters, a woman pushing a stroller through the slush. Lives unfolding in patterns he no longer understood. He had built this company from nothing, had worked 20-hour days for decades, had sacrificed everything soft in himself for success. And now, at the summit, he found only silence. His phone buzzed. Another meeting moved up. Another crisis requiring his attention. He turned from the window and became, once again, the man everyone needed him to be. The bus was late. Elena stood at the stop, with Maya pressed against her side, both of them shivering in the February wind. She'd wrapped her own scarf around Maya's neck, doubled it, tucked the ends into the thin blue coat. Still, she could see her daughter trembling. The bus is coming soon, Elena said, though she didn't know if it was true. Mama, that man doesn't have any gloves. Elena followed Maya's gaze to a figure approaching down the sidewalk, a tall man in a long wool coat, expensive looking, his bare hands shoved into his pockets. He walked with his head down, lost in thought, the kind of distracted stride that belonged to people who didn't notice the cold, because they were rarely in it for long. The man stopped at the bus shelter, checking his watch. Elena saw his face then, sharp features, gray at the temples, the exhausted eyes of someone who hadn't truly slept in years. She'd seen that look in her own mirror. Maya tugged at Elena's hand. Mama, he looks sad. Maya, don't stare. But Maya wasn't staring. She was studying, the way children do when they're trying to understand something important about the world. The wind picked up, bitter and biting. Maya's whole body shuddered, and Elena pulled her closer, wrapping her arms around her daughter's thin shoulders. She was calculating. How many more minutes until the bus? Whether Maya's ears were covered enough, whether she should just take her home and try again tomorrow. The man glanced over. His eyes moved from Elena to Maya, and something shifted in his expression. Something old and half-forgotten, stirring behind the careful blankness. Excuse me, he said, and his voice was quieter than Elena expected. Your daughter, she's cold? We're fine, Elena said automatically. Pride, stupid, useless pride. But the man was already moving. He unbuttoned his coat, that beautiful warm coat that probably cost more than Elena's monthly rent, and shrugged it off. Please, he said, holding it out. I have a car coming. I just stepped out for some air. I don't need it. I can't accept that. It's not charity. It's just... He stopped, and something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. Memory. Someone did this for me once, a long time ago. Please. Maya looked up at her mother, eyes wide. Elena hesitated, every instinct warring. The need to protect her daughter, the need to preserve her dignity, the simple human resistance to accepting help. The man knelt down, bringing himself to Maya's level. What's your name? Maya. That's a beautiful name. He held the coat open like an invitation. This coat is magic, Maya. It holds all the warmth of everyone who's ever worn it. If you wear it, you'll carry that warmth with you all day. Maya's face lit up. Really? Really? Elena watched her daughter step into the coat, watched the man wrap it around her small shoulders, watched Maya disappear into the warm folds of it, only her face peeking out, finally not shivering. "Thank you," Elena whispered, and her voice cracked on the words. The man stood, and as he did, his eyes met Elena's fully for the first time. He froze. She saw it happen. The recognition that moved through him like an electric current, the way his breath caught, the way his hand came up involuntarily as if reaching for something he'd lost. "It's you," he said. Elena stared at him. "I'm sorry." "The shelter," he said, and his voice was trembling now. 30 years ago, the youth shelter on Maple Street. You used to volunteer there. You couldn't have been more than 16. The world tilted. Elena felt time fold in on itself, felt the years collapse into a single point of impossible convergence. She remembered. God help her, she remembered. A boy, 17 years old, rail-thin, sleeping on a cot in the corner. He'd arrived in the middle of a snowstorm with nothing but a backpack and eyes that held too much hurt for someone so young. She'd been a volunteer, just a teenager herself, sorting donations after school. She'd given him her brother's coat. He'd been too proud to take it at first, but she'd insisted. "It's not charity," she'd said. "It's just, someone did this for me once." She'd never seen him again. "Danny," she breathed. The name came back to her from 3 decades away, carried on the same wind that had brought him to her shelter door as a homeless teenager with nowhere else to go. "You remembered," he said, and his voice broke. "I never forgot." Maya looked between them, sensing the enormity of the moment without understanding it. "Mama, do you know him?" Elena couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down her face, warm against the winter air. Daniel knelt again, this time in front of both of them. "Maya, your mama saved my life once. She probably doesn't know it, but she did. I was alone and scared, and I had nothing, and she gave me her brother's coat and told me I was going to be okay. And I believed her." Maya considered this with the seriousness it deserved. "Mama's good at making people feel okay." "I bet she is." A black car pulled up to the curb, Daniel's driver, late for once. Daniel ignored it. "Elena," he said, and the name felt like a prayer in his mouth. "I've looked for you. For years I've looked. I wanted to—" He stopped, overwhelmed. "I wanted to thank you. I wanted to show you that I made something of the chance you gave me." "You don't owe me anything, Danny. I owe you everything." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a phone, hands shaking. "I don't know what your circumstances are. I don't know what you need, but please, let me help, whatever it is. A job, a place to stay, anything. I've spent 30 years trying to find a way to repay a kindness I can never repay. Please let me try." Elena thought of the rejection email on her phone, Hartwell Industries. She almost laughed at the cosmic absurdity of it. She hesitated. "I applied for a job at your company. This morning I got the rejection." Daniel stared at her. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call, right there at the bus stop, his breath making clouds in the cold air. "Janet, pull the application for Elena Vasquez. Yes, I know I'm in a meeting in 10 minutes. Pull it now and cancel everything on my calendar for the next hour." The coffee shop was warm, and Maya was drinking hot chocolate with extra whipped cream, her new coat, Daniel's coat, folded carefully on the seat beside her like a treasure. Daniel and Elena sat across from each other, and they talked. They talked about the 30 years between them, his rise from homeless teenager to CEO, her path through community college and single motherhood, the daughter she'd raised alone after her husband left. They talked about the nights she'd spent, wondering what happened to the scared boy she'd given her brother's coat to, and the nights he'd spent trying to find the girl who'd shown him that strangers could be kind. "I built this company on that principle," Daniel said quietly. "Every hiring practice, every community program, every scholarship fund, it all goes back to you, to that moment. You taught me that one act of kindness can change everything. I just gave you a coat. You gave me hope." Maya finished her hot chocolate and announced she needed to use the bathroom. Elena walked her to the door and watched her go in, then turned back to find Daniel watching her with something like wonder. "She's extraordinary," he said, "just like her mother. She's the reason I keep going." Daniel was quiet for a moment, then, "The job you applied for, administrative assistant, that's not right for you." Elena's heart sank. Here it comes, she thought. The polite letdown. "I reviewed your resume while we were sitting here," Daniel continued. You have a degree in social work. You ran volunteer programs for 5 years before your daughter was born. You know how to connect with people in crisis. You know how to help. That was a long time ago. Elena. He leaned forward, and his eyes were bright with something she hadn't seen in them before. Hope, maybe, or purpose. I've been trying to launch a foundation for years. Transitional housing, job training, educational support for homeless youth. I have the money. I have the resources. What I don't have is someone who understands. Someone who's been on that side of things. She stared at him. I don't want you to be my administrative assistant, Daniel said. I want you to run my foundation. I want you to help me turn one act of kindness into thousands. 3 years later, the Hartwell Hope Foundation had helped 1,200 young people find stable housing. Elena stood at the podium at the annual gala, Maya beside her in a new dress, and told the story of a scared boy and a borrowed coat. In the audience, Daniel listened to her speak, and for the first time in decades, he felt something crack open in his chest. Not loneliness, not emptiness, something warm. Afterward, they walked together through the February night, Maya holding both their hands, swinging between them like a pendulum. You know what I realized? Maya said. What, baby? That coat really was magic. Elena and Daniel looked at each other over her head and smiled. Yeah, Daniel said softly. I guess it was. They walked on, 3 figures in the snow, warm in a way that had nothing to do with coats or coffee or February air. Warm in the way that mattered, the warmth of being found, of being remembered, of discovering that the kindness you put into the world comes back to you in ways you never expect. And somewhere in the city, a teenager in a shelter pulled on a donated coat and felt, for the first time in months, that things might be okay. The cycle continued. It always does.